because from their customer side, who are every day on site at 7 o'clock in the morning, they are counting how many staff are coming to work. By 9 o'clock it's on your table. Today there were only 18 lorries on site. You had promised 20. Your dump trucks were too short. You had your site workers 400. Today only 360 showed up. Please explain. You never have such kind of discussions in Malaysia. And all these companies went through very hard learning experiences, burned a lot of money, lost a lot of money before they realized that actually the prices they were putting were far too low. And then they understood also why the prices there are so high. So there are many factors that have to be thought about. Take it a step at a time. I think it's very important you don't think too many problems or too big at one time, because then you're overwhelmed with it. It is best to grow at a pace which you can afford, and it's always great to have people who have experience on your team. If there's somebody you can get who knows the region, or knows the territory, or knows a particular country, how the commercial things are done there, it saves you a lot of heartache and money. Yeah. Even things like LC, a lot of us will believe that if you have an LC, it's a secure form of payment, but actually it's not. Especially if you're doing export projects, the LC would be, you may end up just throwing it in the bin. You can never claim it, because there may be certain conditions in the LC which you can never fulfill, or they simply just refuse to sign it off. So many types of challenges are there. The important thing, I think, is be focused on your abilities and your team. Be focused on what you are adding, what value are you adding to your customers. How are you making your customers most successful? How are you making your employees most successful? And if you keep that in mind and put your personal reward, which is what your success at the end, and be patient, hopefully you may have much bigger success and better opportunity. But again, I'm generalizing this. It may not be accurate for your individual cases, so don't take my words that this is the only way kind of thing. It's just my experience. Yours will be different, and it is a very rewarding journey. You will get your ups and you will get your downs. Most of the time, entrepreneurs are down. And you get your moments of success.
You get your ups when you see the PO, then down when you need to deploy. Oops.
And then you're up when you finish deploying, and you're down when they don't pay you.
Actually, we have a couple of crazy things. You talk about down when you deploy, because we have a couple of very bad things in this. One is the funding. Banks are not supporting the industry. Number two, the customers. Unfortunately, most of the customers are leveraging on the supplier's credit. So the payment terms are totally unfavorable. They pay you at the end of the project on delivery. There's no down payments for most of the jobs. There's no progress payments. So you have to carry the cash flow of the whole project, and the larger the project, the bigger the pain you're going to get.
So on top of that, you can pay the whatever bond.
Yeah, you got to put up your performance bond. You got to put up LCs to your sub-suppliers, especially if they are international. So the environment here is very challenging, very, very challenging. That's why, I think in a way, we have a lot of creative people, we have a lot of people wanting to be entrepreneurs in this country, but we don't see many successes. We don't see many successes because of all these restrictions.
But is it easier in other countries?
Everywhere.
That's the next
everywhere. So, like you said, it's a journey of an entrepreneur. In the States and Europe, there's all sorts of laws, liabilities that one way or another will get you in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure it's challenging here.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's the statement. An entrepreneur anywhere in the world has different challenges. I mean, we all know the Kentucky Fried story of Colonel Sanders. I think he had to knock on 1,000 doors or something before he got somebody to accept the recipe. I mean, that's America. The point is not whether it's easier or not. The conditions will differ in different places. It may be easier to get funding in the US, but then you may have other difficulties with labor, with building your team. The cost is very high. There are many. It's just the challenges change. The challenges change. But I must say that the more developed the country is, the challenges are less, definitely less. Entry barriers are lower, more infrastructure, better ecosystems. As they always say, if you can build a business and run it in Asia, then you can build a business anywhere. Build a business anywhere.
Any more questions?
How do you hang on to your key people around you for a long period of time?
Okay, this is
preventing from being pinched or...
Okay. This is a very important question, I think, and something that is going to be close to all your hearts as well. One of the most important things is, first of all, to identify your key people, and secondly, to have a relationship which is beyond, especially as an entrepreneur. The relationship cannot be a boss-worker relationship. It cannot be a boss-worker relationship. You have to have a lot of personal time investment invested to spend with these people, so that you have a deeper relationship, and number two, you have to make sure that you look after their needs. The emphasis is not on your success, the emphasis is also their success as part of your success. So if you, for example, in my case, I spend a lot of money on training. Every year I send them for all kinds of trainings. We had a relatively big budget for trainings. Of course, we have technology. Number two, I make sure that they are paid higher than all the competitors are paying in town. So that financially they feel that they are well off. Make them comfortable. Make them not poachable. Because if somebody wants to poach them, they are going to have to pay very high salaries, which may disrupt their own salary levels in their organizations. So these are some of the strategies. The other thing is keep very personal with them. Sometimes it does help if you offer them some small partnerships, but I would not like to suggest that, because it also leads to a lot of complications. Because then one thing I can tell you all, as you are entrepreneurs as well, having shares in an organization is actually having a big liability. Most people don't realize this. To the shareholder. Yeah. If I'm going to be, now after my whole cycle, if somebody comes to me and says, look, I offer you 5% shares in my company or something like that, I will run away from such deals. Because when you're a shareholder, you have a lot of liability with the organization. It's nice to be a shareholder of a public listed company which is profit giving, where you can get dividends or whatever. But if you're in a startup company and you're a shareholder, you have to come up with cash. And your partners are not going to come up with cash, especially if they are your employees. If you run out of cash and you need a cash injection, then you're going to say, hey guys, you're 3%, you're 5%, I need you to put money in. They most probably give you a resignation and go. So it is a dangerous way to involve employees. What I did was a different thing. I gave them the option of shares at the point I listed the company or did a sale. So, yes, or if I sold out the company. So I never gave them shares. I gave them the option of shares.
Is there a formal agreement that you pass?
Yes, I made a trust deed to say that. I made a trust deed with them to say that if I list the company, this is how many shares they will have. If I sell the company, then this equivalent will be given to them in cash or shares.